Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the Joy Sew Along. I am Julie of Jaybird Quilts, and I am really excited to kick this off here with you today. This is my first time going live on YouTube, gone live on other platforms, and then put the videos here. So there's a little bit of trial and error today. So if we have some hiccups, please be patient with us. Rachel is here as well. She is in she's typing. So if you see answers that say from Jaybird Quilts, that is Rachel. She's going to answer your questions if I miss them live. Um, Let me know. On my screen, it shows this reverse. I'm hoping that you see it properly. But if you don't, we'll have to figure out a different way to do this in the future. But here is the Joy table runner. You can also see it's featured on the cover of the book. Um, and we are going to sew along together. I've taken a little bit of a break from YouTube for the past couple of months. Spent most of the summer with my kids and doing some fun sewing. Gotten into apparel sewing, made this shirt. Um, Posted some of that on Instagram, places here and there. If you haven't seen me in a while, chopped all my hair off. Donated 12 inches. That was a one of those bucket list life goals of mine, and I'm super happy with it. So I've been maintaining this new short haircut. So this is a big change for me. So if you haven't seen me in a while, still Julie, just a lot less hair. Um, so Joy, if you have not yet signed up, the link Rachel will provide for you. Please make sure you sign up. This is going to be free. And the alphabet soup book contains all 26 letters of the alphabet, 0 through 9 numbers, as well as a few bonus symbols. But I'm going to give you the directions on how to do J, O, and Y for free. And once you sign up at the provided link, you will get a welcome email with a 5-page PDF. And this PDF is all of the directions that you need. And if you enjoy this, I hope you will join us again early in 2023. We're going to do a full sew along with alphabet soup. There are quilts, number tiles, pillows, table runners, banners, signs, so many possibilities. Seasonally, like I'm doing a Thanksgiving one right now. You can change things out for the holidays. You can change them out for kids. You can customize them. I love making the pillows to match a quilt that I'm gifting and use the initial of the person. So, for instance, this is an O pillow. And if, someone's name started with an O, like Olivia, you could give them an O pillow to match their quilt. That's a nice, fun way. Also, it doesn't take a lot of fabric to make these letters, so it's a great way to use up scraps. We always have scraps left over from any given quilt, and this is a good way to use them up and personalize it and give an additional gift when you're giving something. So I'm going to just jump right on to Joy. And if you have questions, please ask them. And if you are watching this recorded, we encourage you to ask questions as well. Rachel and I will come back regularly and answer those questions as you have them. So Joy, this is the first Joy table runner I made, and it's the one that's featured on the cover of the pattern. And joy is such a joyous word. I know you're not ever supposed to use the word in the definition of the word, but for better lack of it is. And I think especially this time of year, you can have joy in terms of Thanksgiving. You can have joy in terms of Christmas. You can have joy in my case in terms of Hanukkah. So I am going with Hanukkah fabrics. And I expect a lot of people are going to be going with Christmas fabrics. I've already seen some popping up and they are beautiful. And I have this fabric, I think it's called Festival of Lights by Andover. And so this is going to be the background of my letters. And then I have all of these gorgeous blues to make up my letters. So the first step that you should do after signing up and downloading the PDF is to start deciding on fabrics. And I picked out my fabrics and kind of made a little key for myself here. Use some crayons and some colored pencils. You can use markers, whatever you have on hand. And this is just kind of for you. This is to give you an idea. Some people work better with having the physical fabrics in front of them and playing with them. That's how I generally start. And then I make this up so that I have a key for myself so that I know where did I intend for the dark blue to go, for the medium blue, so forth and so on. If you need help with fabric selection, we have a great Facebook group called Jaybird Quilts Sew Alongs. And there's a couple thousand people in there, I think, that that will give you their opinion if you ask, and we can, encourage each other and share and be there as a team to help you, especially if you are worried about, will this background contrast enough? Will these fabrics work together? This is something great for scraps, so you don't need to start with a lot of yardage. Like I happen to have, a good amount of pieces here. One project that I started with scraps, and I have yet to finish, need to get around to this, is I started one for Thanksgiving. And so I just use different French general scraps that I have. And some of the letters contrast more than others. So that's an N. This is a G. And each of my letters has completely different fabrics. And it's just that my background is going to be the same. So you can make your joy in different fabrics. So here I have 6 fabrics, 2 for each of the letters, and then a 7th for the background. Or your joy could be like these words in the cover. You can make all of your letters the same. So many different possibilities. I am excited to see what you come up with. Not, I'm used to saying next week because we usually do these weekly. It's not next week. Today's Friday. Tuesday, we're going to go over sewing J. And I just finished recording that video for you. So the J, O, and Y are going to be recorded. Today's going to be live, and then piecing the table runner is going to be live. And the J video is, I want to say, like 35 minutes long. I packed a ton of information into it. So if you are new to Jaybird, may seem intimidating. It's not necessarily a beginner quilt, but if you are new to Jaybird or have limited experience, the J video is chock full of a ton of information, so that you can do this. All of my quilts and things that are designed with my rulers are puzzles, and I'll get more into that in a minute. So these are cut out with specialty rulers. There are templates provided in the book. If you purchase the book, there are not templates provided specifically for Joy because we're going to focus on the rulers. So all of the pieces are cut with the Hexamore and with the Super Sidekick rulers. So the Hexamore was my first ruler and came out in 2014, I think, right? No, 2012. She just had her 10-year anniversary. How did I forget? 2012. It's the Super Sidekicks 2014. So 2012. And this ruler was the result of my love for hexagons and triangles and not finding what I needed on the market. Traditional English paper pieced things measure hexagons and triangles on the length of a side. And that makes it hard to cut rotary cut strip widths and things because then this dimension is not a standard dimension. So instead of measuring off of the sides, I measure top to bottom. So this ruler allows you to cut 4 hexagons, finish sizes of 2, 4, 6, and 8. And triangles finish sizes of 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 1-inch triangle goes with the 2-inch hexagon, 2-inch triangle, 4-inch hexagon, so forth and so on. So there's kind of 4 sets of nesting sizes, if that makes sense. It also has the jewel, which is the entire shape of the ruler. It's basically a hexagon with an added triangle shape. And then a half hexagon, which is what it sounds like, a half of a hexagon. Put 2 of those together to make a full hexagon. Those are based off of the full hexagon sizes. So, for instance, the 8-inch half hex is really 4.5 inches cut at height and 4 inches finished because it would be 8 inches as a full hexagon. Hope that makes sense. All of my rulers come with full color directions. So this is what it looks like when it's packaged and you find it in the store or it gets shipped to you. And this unfolds and has complete directions on how to cut each of the shapes. And these pictures here on the front, make sure the reflection's not there, show you the darkest to the lightest. That's the 2, 4, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 4, 6, 8. And then these are 3, 6, 9, 12 because they have that added piece to them. So, in addition to this, I have filmed videos for each of the rulers, and we will make sure to link to the correct ones for each of the letters in the cutting, and Rachel can give you the basic links as well. I have a lot of content that already exists on my YouTube channel, so I didn't want to duplicate things that are already there. So if you need specific cutting help, I've already done that for the majority of these, and so we can give you the links to those. So that's the Hexamore. And then there is a mini Hexamore, not required for this project, but you will see me use it in a couple places when I talk about sharp points versus blunt points next week. Next week. I guess it is next week. It's Tuesday though. The bottom of this ruler really is very helpful for cutting sharp points down to blunt points. Any of the rulers work, but this is just nice and small to have in the machine. When you buy it, it comes like this with a paper on the back and a barcode, and then you just peel it off, and then it's like a regular ruler. This one does not come with directions, but we have a video that has all of the directions. What this does is it cuts the smallest size that exists on here. So it has this dark triangle shows you is the triangle. So 1.5 inch strip, you're going to get a triangle. 1.5 inch strip, you're going to get a 2 inch half hex. A 2.5 inch strip, you're going to get a hexagon. And then the full ruler is the 3.5 inch jewel. Like I said, not required for this project, but very helpful. The Super Sidekick is the other ruler that you will need. And before the Super Sidekick came the Sidekick, but we're going to go a little backwards because that's not the one that's required for this project. So I'm going to try and make sure the reflection, you can see it. So Super Sidekick, this, as you can imagine, Sidekick is the sidekick to the Hexamore. So what happened was, came out with the Hexamore, loved it. So many possibilities. I drafted up a ton of quilts. And then I realized that I wanted more. And there were other shapes that I had not fit under the ruler because it didn't make sense. And so I added this to the family. And what this adds to the family is a diamond and a half triangle. And yes, I know a half triangle, technically 3 sides, still a triangle. The key of the half triangle is that when you put 2 of them together, a right and a left, they make a triangle. That's why it's called a half triangle. You cut the right ones, which is what this shape is, with the ruler right side up, fabric right side up. You cut the left ones with the fabric wrong side up. So I hope that makes sense. So let me show you in an example. So the J, which is what we're going to work on next, the column of the J has right and left triangles that go on either side of the full triangle to make a rectangle. And that same unit exists in an eye, and I have an eye right here, so I'll bring it up close. So this is the shape of a right triangle. And this is what you get when you cut with the fabric right side up, ruler right side up. To get this one, you cut with the fabric wrong side up, and then that's how you get the left shape. So this is that. And when another possibility is putting them together to make a triangle. Do I have an example of that in front of me? I might not, because that's not really used in alphabet soup so much as other things. But yeah, so in some of my other patterns, you see I take a right and a left and sew them along the straight of grain side together, and then they equal the same space of this triangle. If that doesn't make sense, please let me know. So that's the half triangle. And then the diamond shape, we're not using in Joy, but the diamond shape is used in a lot of the letters. This is the diamond. The diamond is basically 2 triangles. And so it's used in the E, it's used in the V, in the T. Like I said, there's a lot of different letters. And then it's really fun how I kind of pieced them together as a puzzle and figured out how to make the colors contrast. And so my goal with these letters is that you have some fun and interest in them between the 2 fabrics that you pick, but that from a distance, you're just reading joy. You're just seeing pink, purple, blue, pink, purple, teal, pink, purple, teal. It's not really blue, it's teal. And then when you come up close is when you're starting to see the contrast and the detail. But from a distance, you're just reading it. And sometimes I use less contrast. If you look at the run, jump, skip, hop, play, really the green is the only one that has a higher contrast. You can barely see the contrast in here. You can in person, but it's just much less. And, you know, depending on what you are trying to achieve, you can go with less contrast or more contrast. There is no wrong or right answer. But the goal is that someone can read the words. So I've mentioned a couple times puzzle. So on that note, there is no trimming in any of these, with the one exception is the number 5. I'm pretty sure, because I always say there's no trimming, and then I realized there technically is trimming on one thing, and it's because there's one funky shape in the 5. I'm just going to confirm. Is it the 5? No, it's a 7. It's a 7. The 7 has a tiny bit of trimming. There's no trimming in anything else. And the 7, it makes sense if you take a look in the book. So everything fits together like a puzzle. It's very important that you take your time in cutting. Accurate cutting accurate sewing, pieces everything together with zero trimming. I'm just not a fan of trimming personally. Takes a lot of time, and I like having things be a puzzle. Um, so if you are finding that you are a couple steps in and things aren't fitting, take a pause, take a step back. Did you miscut something? Did you miss sew something? What happened? Because everything should fit together. I talk about scant quarter inch, and scant quarter inch is one thread over. And what that does is it accounts for what gets lost here in the seam allowance. If you took two strips that were 1.5 inches and you pieced them together with a accurate quarter inch seam, once you press that and open it, that piece does not measure 2.5 inches. And it might not seem like a big deal with two strips, but once you get to eight strips, if each one is off by a 16th with eight strips, that's a half an inch. And you don't think about it that way. You're like, it's only a 16th. What does it matter? But with a block that's 8 inches tall, if we're off each inch by 1/16, that's a half an inch by the end of your block. That does add up. It's significant. So using a scant quarter inch makes it so that everything measures properly. So that when you sew two 1.5 inch strips together, press and measure, they do measure 2.5 inches. So that your block is 8.5 inches. Because the last thing you want is to end up with one block that's 8 inches tall and one that's 8.5. And, you know, we work hard on these things. We want them to measure, we want them to all fit together. So that's the super sidekick. And the super sidekick came after, as I mentioned, the sidekick. So the sidekick is the smaller one. The smaller sidekick will work for almost everything. You need the super for one piece of J, but this one will work for O and Y. So if you don't yet own the super, you can still do a lot of what you need. Um, This is my favorite ruler, though, I'm not gonna lie. When people ask me what is my favorite one, I know I shouldn't pick favorites, I don't have a favorite kid, but I do have a favorite ruler. This is the ruler I go back to the most, this is the one I use the most. The both Sidekick rulers have the triangle, which is my most used shape, in addition to the hex and more, and this one's just small. It is the size of a regular pattern bag, it fits into everything, and it's just easy in my hands. These can be a little more finicky to work with, especially when you are cutting small things. So I prefer to use the smaller ruler, but this is not by any means required. Um, Now, let me show you any questions. I feel like there have not been a lot of questions. I know Rachel's been answering a bunch of them, but I just want to check. I have the best directions and free videos out there. Thank you, Kathleen. I work really hard to provide you with the best content I can. For those who don't know, a short version of my history, I am a totally self-taught quilter, and then I worked at a quilt shop, and my job ended up being helping people through poorly written patterns. And that's actually how I found my way into writing patterns, was I was rewriting everyone else's patterns and realized, hey, I'm really good at this. Maybe I should do it. And that was how many years ago? 13, 14 years ago? 15 years ago? A while. So I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a while. I started Jaybird 13 years ago and never looked back, never looked back. And I have the best fans and the best supporters. You are all amazing. And you are the reason I can continue to do this, how I do it. So as I mentioned, I have already started my J. So I'm going to show you my J. We're going to do this on Tuesday. And as I mentioned, it's just a puzzle. If you have already downloaded your pattern, you know the order this goes together. We're going to start by making these simple units. We're going to make each of those, and then we're going to build that. And then we're going to build this piece, put those together, and then we're going to continue to build around the letter. And I have done some fussy cutting. You can fussy cut with these rulers, but I also have some very exciting new tools coming. I was hoping they would be ready for the sew along, but as I'm sure you know by now, COVID, manufacturing delays, all these things, they add up, and it is what it is, and they're not ready. But as soon as they are, I will be doing a bunch of videos to show those to you because I'm very excited. Pressing seams open. Yes, Amy, I highly suggest pressing seams open, especially in areas like you're going to have some areas that have 8 points coming together, and pressing seams open will alleviate your bulk. I'm a fan of pressing seams open everywhere. If you've never done it before, I highly encourage it. I go over in Tuesday's video pressing versus ironing and the tools that I use. Quick recap for those if you are going pressing and ironing, aren't they the same thing? They're not. Pressing is up and down, ironing is pushing. We iron clothes, we press quilt blocks. You do not want to stretch your quilt blocks. We are working with bias here in many different places. So we want to go up and down, not stretch. Where did I get my Hanukkah fabric? It is by Andover and it is called Festival of Lights. There's lots of quilt shops, I believe, that have it in stock right now. Um, and it has some great motifs. So this is one of the prints that has a menorah. And I like things that look gold but aren't gold, if that makes sense. So there is a little bit of metallic in here, but this isn't metallic because I have found when things are overly metallic, sometimes the they don't wear so well over time and it chips off. And that's not unique to any one manufacturer. It just seems to be the reality of using a metallic medium to print. This is just gold where this is actually metallic, and a lot of the prints are like that. So these are super vibrant Hanukkah prints. I'm very excited to be using these. If trouble pressing open, do you have a trick, Phyllis? Let me grab one of my tools. So I do have a couple tricks, and my primary thing is I first start by pressing, finger pressing. So I will take the piece, open it up, just use my nail, finger press, so that it's as flat as possible and I've opened up the seam. Um, some people have been taught to go press your sewn seam before you open it or before you press the side. I'm not sure what that why that was developed, and I have not found a need for it in my use, so I don't do that. So I press open, and then I have this seam roller by Violet Craft. Love this. And you basically roll it. Sorry, it makes a weird squeaky noise sometimes, but you roll it over the seam. And you can do this for pressing on the side as well as pressing open. It works really well for pressing open. It's got a slight curve to it. So it applies a lot of pressure right in the middle. And I find that it really helps to open up the seam. And then when I get to the iron, we've all probably injured ourselves, burnt ourselves, poked ourselves with a needle, things, and we want to avoid that. So this is my trick at the iron, which is a heat resistant stiletto. So this end here is silicone and cannot burn. This end is plastic, so make sure you don't use the blue end. Make sure you use the gray end. And I hold this where I would want my finger. So wherever I would naturally want to push my finger, I go like this instead. I kind of hold it. I'm right-handed, but I hold it with my left hand as if I would hold like a pencil. And I try and use this where I would want. So I don't have my iron, but imagine, this is the end of my iron and this is this. They can touch each other and not burn my finger, not damage my iron, not melting anything on my iron. So I find this to be a very helpful way of pressing things open. Pressing open does take, can take longer than pressing to the side, but I find it's worth it. I find things really lay flat. It's kind of hard to show in a video, but I mean, this is pressed open and this is just so flat, this whole area. And people will ask, what about stitching in the ditch with quilters? I send most of my stuff out to either Angela Walters or and have not had any issues with either one, only with all of my quilts that are pressed open. Um, I think they don't generally stitch like directly in the ditch. They'll probably stitch like one thread over to not strain the seam. But even stitching in the ditch when it's pressed to the side, you're technically not stitching in the seam because it's got that slight roll that happens when you push it to the side, if that makes sense. If you like zoomed in with a magnifying glass. For those who don't know, I'm definitely on the nerdy side of things. I'm married to an engineer and I like the finicky, I like the little detail. I have your tools. I've been pressing to one side, then open. Um, so if that's working, Phyllis, great. If it's not working, then let's try something else. If you need assistance, like I said, we are in the Facebook group and we are here to help, to troubleshoot, to provide you with assistance. This is what my seams look like on the back. So you can see they're pressed open. You will have these dog ears if you don't cut your sharp points to be blunt. which is something that I go over. But I don't tend to trim these off when they are there. If they bother you, by all means. Um, and even when I'm working with white, so I'll use the J as an example. I don't find people will be like, well, you have to press the dark. Well, there's a lot of seams in the white anyway. But I don't find a ton of issues. I use a white batting underneath, and I find a good look. I mean, all of these, as you can see, are white. So these are the framed blocks. These finish at 12 by 12. So all of the letters can be finished in multiple different ways. So that's another thing is someone did ask in one of the groups, can we do it vertically? Absolutely. I don't necessarily give you the directions in here. The directions in here assume you want to do it horizontally, but you could add some sashing to the sides of both of your letters, all three of your letters, and you can stack them like this. Can you see that? Move that out of the way. So you could stack all of your letters if you wanted to make something like for your door, or if you have a skinny column somewhere in your house. These are the 10-inch tiles. These are featured in the banners, as well as when you first open up the book, the table of contents. And so I actually made for the table of contents photo, as well as to have in my quilt market booth when I debuted this book, I made, what did we make, Rachel? Like 120. Rachel went through Wheel of Fortune style, RST, LNE, but then figured out what letters are mostly needed in quilt shops, because obviously we need more Qs. And these have now become a favorite of my kids. My boys love playing with these on the floor. That is not something I imagined when I wrote this book, because I didn't have kids yet, and I had not thought that, oh, that's going to be a fun use for those. Quick note on the book. So book originally came out 5 years ago, and this is the original cover. That is Elijah and Aaliyah, my niece and nephew, and they were starting 5th and 2nd grade. So that's one fun way you can use numbers. The Joy Table Runner. This is a baby quilt. I give you a ton of different words. You can pick any 5 words. In this case, I did run, jump, skip, hop, play. I did one with Tulip Pink fabrics that said cut, pin, sew, press, quilt, I think. And over here, that's my neighbor's kid, and we made some pillows that spelled Dane and a happy banner. We went to reprint the book this year because we ran out. And so now that I have my own kids, I updated it. If you see this one in stores, there's very few changes. So go ahead and buy whichever one you see. The new one has my kids. So there is Nate and Will. We actually never called him Will. We called him William, but didn't really fit in the picture, and it kind of was cute, the Nate and Will. So those are their letter pillows. And if you have been following for a long time, I had both of those at the hospital, as well as the tiles when they were born. I didn't know whether I was having a boy or girl. So I had the girl names with me and additional pillows as well. But I ended up with 2 boys, and I could not love them more. So they have their name tiles and their pillows. And then also in the back, slight change is we added an additional picture. That is a bonus quilt. The directions are at bonus.jaybirdquilts.com. You still need the directions for the letters from the book, but you can download the bonus directions for this. And this was inspired by Tulip Pink has often with her collections these amazing wide backs. This was the banana from, I think it was called Don't Slip, this specific print from Monkey Wrench. And I really wanted to use it on the front, and I didn't want to chop it in tiny pieces. And so what this does is that's actually the back of the quilt as well. So this takes advantage of those gorgeous wide 108 prints so that you use it for the back of the quilt and to feature parts of the front of the quilt, and then you make a name panel. And I have made this one for Nate. And I have made a Julie one for myself, made a Zach one for a friend of ours, baby, but William does not have one yet. So that is one of the projects that we will be doing early next year in 2023 is William. It's time for William to get his name quilt. So we're going to be making that. And also, if you have suggestions of specific projects that you want to see in the next Sew Along from the book, we're not going to be able to do all of them and every letter. So I would love to know what you want to see. But both of these versions, if you see them in stores and you're wondering what's the difference, it's really the front picture. the back picture, and I don't really think we updated much of anything else. Might have added a couple more pictures on the inside. But yeah, wanted to go over that. Yeah, so I updated and put this picture of cute little William, 2-month-old William. That is probably the most common way that I have used things from this book. Is I have used those numbers every month since my children have been born. I photographed Nate for 3 years, 1 through 36. And William is currently 17 months old, and I haven't missed a month yet. Don't plan on missing one. And we'll continue to do that as long as he lets me. By close to 3, Nate was like, "Mom, I'm over this. Let's move on." So I'm gonna just check. Rachel sending me a text. We're good. Make sure I'm covering everything she thinks I should be. So for those of you who also are wondering, Rachel is in Philadelphia. I am here in San Diego. She has been my best friend for close to 20 years at this point. Is it 20 years? We might have hit 20 years. And she is my other half, and really has helped me. I started Jaybird, I was all by myself, and Rachel joined in not too long after and has really helped me to be able to focus on this end of things, and she can focus on the logistics. So if you have questions, we are always both available. I'm very, as I mentioned, very excited to do this with you. So I'm going to wrap up unless you have more questions. This video will be published to my YouTube channel and will stay as long as I'm around. And you will have the recorded video Tuesday of the J, followed by Friday, the O, followed by the next Tuesday is the Y. And then the next Friday, 2 weeks from today, I will be live to show you finishing the table runner with my J, O, and Y. So I have not pieced them into a table runner yet. I'm going to do that live with you 2 weeks from today. So it's been great. If you have enjoyed this video, please please continue to leave comments, please subscribe to the channel, share with your friends. I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I will see you in a couple days. Have a great rest of your Friday.